So what is our calendar name that we have created? We have created two calendars actually yesterday. One is an MRF calendar, another one is a test calendar. I have created to demonstrate you once again. So I'll go for my calendar, which is MRF. So I'll drop down here. I can see the list of calendars. I'll select the calendar that we have created yesterday. So here I have it, MRF fiscal calendar, which we have created yesterday. So click on this MRF fiscal calendar. So I can see it. We have created one fiscal year within that calendar, which is for 2021, starting from 1st of January to 31st of December. So did you guys try to create a calendar? Face any issues or doubts within the ta task that we have discussed until yesterday? Anyone? Done. We have created a calendar by clicking here on new calendar. Then we have given all the details and created. I'll create one more if you want to. Just for demonstration, I'll give you a name as test2 usual name just for demonstration purpose. So I told you you can select whatever year starting date or ending date that you want here, and you can select the year name. So by default it will show 2021. You can select just give alphabets like if fiscal year 2021 or business year 2021, anything according to your client's need. You can give the fiscal year name. Then the length of the period. So this plays a key role. As I said, this length of the period plays a key role to divide the periods within the calendar year. So how do you want to divide your periods within the calendar year? If you want to divide it monthly, you can select months here, and length of the period is 1, such that it will divide each month as a operating period in the calendar year. In the same manner, if you want to divide it on the basis of years, I mean complete 1 year as an operating period, you can select years. Or if you would like to have each day as an operating period, you can select as days. Or I told you if it only want to do it quarterly, what is the way to do it quarterly? Anybody?
So
Months
have
and
to select months and length of the period will be 3.
Okay, select it as months and length of the period is 3 to have to divide it on quarterly basis. So for other than Susila, this question is to remaining people. So if you have to divide it on the basis of weeks or divide the operating periods on the basis of weeks, how can I do that?
you can
7
do it
days.
units as days and
7
length as
days and
7.
the period is 7.
Length of the period is 7. So this is how. Great, good, good response, guys. Then, so these are all the steps we have here. So in case I want to divide the periods, operating periods as 15 days each, 15 days each as a period. So how can I do that?
Use the length of period as 15
Okay, let's keep
and
the length of period as 15 and
units as days.
units as days, and such that I will get operating period for each 15 days. There will be a single one operating period for each 15 days. I'll have as many as it can divide the number of I mean 365 days divided by 15. I'll get those many operating periods. The additional days will be put into the last operating period. So that's how we can create a new calendar or create an year starting year. So now I have a doubt. Okay, my client have a concern that previously they are doing business in another ERP or they are recording simply in books until now, suppose from last 10 years. So they want to bring all those 10 years data into the system. Suppose if I create this calendar now like this from 2021 year. So now if I click on new year, can I add 2020 again? Can I add 2019, 18 or the backward years again?
Yes, you can add.
So how can we add it?
By giving the dates, start the physical year, previous year.
Okay. Can there's a lot of noise from your side, but anyway, I understood what you're saying. So what I want to say is, once you have created an year, you can't create the past years before that year. You can create the later years if you want to. 2020 to 23, you can keep on creating, but you can't create the past years. So in order to create the past years, you have to begin it from the past year itself. The calendars, the calendar years should start from the beginning dates itself. Suppose, as I told you as an example, the past 10 years data has to be brought into Dynamics of the client. So I have to create all the past 10 years as well. So as I would say, my calendar starting itself, I'll delete this calendar and once again create it. Don't worry. So in order to do so, I have to create a calendar as a test calendar again. Here, suppose test 2 I'll give and same name in the description. So I'll start the fiscal year. Sorry about this. I'll start the fiscal year from 2010 itself. So 2011 maybe from 10 years back. So I'll start it from then itself. From 2011 to if they want it on yearly basis calendar, I can give yearly. Suppose I can say that it's December 2011, December 31st, 2011. So then I keep on adding new years. So it will add 2012 later, 13, 14, 15, so on, so on, so on. And you can bring the data back from those years, or if the client requirement is such that they want a calendar like this for which is having past years also, you can create like this. Okay, if client is going live today, it means that client is being in business from many years. So they might already want to bring some previous year data, or for the purpose of maintaining fixed assets, they might want to create a calendar which is like having the past years also within that. So in that case, while creating the calendar itself, you have to start it from the past date such that you can add the next years along. Using the next year is easy, but once you have created an year, you can't add an year which is previous to that particular year. You have to create a new calendar once again. So that's the concern. You understood the logic, right? Any confusion in this? Anyone? Vamshi, Sairam?
No.
Fine.
Okay. So if I have to create 10 years, I have to create 1 year like this. So now the calendar is created for. Sorry, I should
Hello.
have changed the name. Tell me.
Yeah, bro. If we created as like 21, 22 year in fiscal calendars,
Hmm.
if client asks for the previous data next year in the 22, 23, if he asks for the past data, then how we have to do it?
You can create one more calendar.
No. If we ask for the past like 2018, 19 data in the 22, 23 year.
I- That's what we discussed in the first discussion. So you have to understand the client requirement in the initial stage itself. So
Okay.
yeah, there is
Later
another
on
way
he
also
says,
to.
first he
If
says like
yeah,
now
I got
it's,
your point.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, There is another way also to do that actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Later on, today we have. So initially the client told you that create a calendar from 2021. We have
Yeah.
done it as it is, but he is now asking you to create an year for 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. If you do not post any transactions using 2021, or if you do not link this calendar to any legal entity and post transactions, you can delete this calendar.
Yeah.
Okay. If at all you have posted any transactions, you can't delete this calendar. But there is another way. You can unlink this calendar from all the legal entities that you have linked it to, and you can link another calendar instead for that legal entity temporarily. Later you come back here, make changes in this calendar and delete all the years and create all the years once again. You can do that if you unlink the calendar
Okay.
from legal entities. Okay.
Okay.
And once again link the same calendar back to the legal entities. So that's one workaround we have in generally. I'll explain you at that point when we got to link this calendar to a legal entity. I'll explain you how to link it and unlink it. Okay. So there is a possibility. Remember that in mind. So I'll show you how is the possibility works, but keep that point in mind that there is a possibility even later also. You can make alterations in your calendar. Um, then so sometimes clients require that. I mean, they want their past data into dynamics. They don't want to create year by year like this. So from here, from the new year, they want to create it year by year. But for the past data, for the past 10 years, they want all the past 10 years data to be put into a single fiscal year like that. So in that case, what they will do is they'll start the fiscal year from 2011, January 1st, suppose 2011, and they will end it by December 31st, 2020. So they will add 10 years within it. In a single fiscal year period, they will add 10 years and they'll give length of period as one and this one as years and they'll create this now. So what happens now? Any idea what happens now if we create it like this? How many operating periods we have?
We'll have 10
Yeah,
operating.
we will have
10.
10 operating periods, each for 1 year. So I'll just create and show you as an example. It's a very complicated scenario, but most of them will do that. If they want some past 10 years or 5 years data, they will do they'll give dates like this: start date from 2011 and end date from 31st December 2020. So all the past years will be brought into a single year. What is the use when you bring it like this? Is there any use when we bring it like this? Yes, there is an use. Uh, there is no need to run fiscal year closure for all the years, I mean, one by one. You can run all the, so you can bring all the balances here in this for this 10 years at a time here, and you can run the fiscal year closure such that the ending balance, whatever is there, will be transferred to the next year 2021. Suppose if I create individual years, like, I'm sorry, it should not be 21, it should be 11 to 20. The name should be, I missed it anyway. In case if I create one by one year, 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15 separately until 2020, I have to run the year-end closure process for each year. First, I have to bring balance into 2011. Then I have to run the year-end process for 11. Then balances will be carried forward to 2012. Then I have to insert the balances of 2012. Then again, I have to run the year-end closure for 2012. So I have to keep on doing it until 2020. And at the end of 2020, once I do that, the balances will be carried forward to 2021. So that is a procedure. But to avoid 10 times year-end closure process, they will usually, since it is past data only, right? You will bring rough data only. You don't bring each and every transaction. You just bring the account balance. So for that purpose, they will create calendar like this, an yearly calendar. I mean, calendar for 10 years at a time, so that they can post whatever transaction they want for that period and just run the year-end closure for a single time. So that's one method that they follow. And you can suggest this kind of methods if client requirement is as so in an implementation project. Just keep this in mind. There is a possibility of doing so. So I want to explain you this scenario. Okay. So this is one way. If you are clear with this scenario, I'll go for another one or two business scenarios, which will be really useful for you, for your knowledge sake. Okay. I'll just delete it this year. I'll add one more year. Don't worry. So I'm just normally adding this 2021 for January 1st to 2000, I mean 31st December 2021, and I'm just giving it as fiscal year 2021. Okay, and then I'm creating 1 month and creating here. So 1 year is created here. What happens is this time my company is merging with another company. Okay, so this company, suppose it's a US legal entity, it is now merging with an Indian legal entity. So Indian legal entity is the main company now. So from the once after the merger, this company also should follow the Indian company calendar format, which starts from April 1st and ends with March 31st. So in between the business process, how can we change the calendar year? Is there a possibility? So how we overcome such kind of situations? So as I'm explaining you, mine is a US based company. Calendar starts from 1st January and ends with, sorry, I'll change it, 31st December. So it starts with 1st January and ends with 31st December. So it is merging with any other Indian company which have a different calendar. So for India, the calendar will be like April 1st to 31st March. So in this kind, anybody know normally how they will manage these kind of situations, mergers and amalgamations or acquisitions? These short periods or long periods they will have in business. So how will they manage this accounting system?
I think whatever the balance periods are there, they'll create a new fiscal calendar for the remaining periods.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they will do in normal business practice. So US calendar will start from 1st of January to 31st of December, right? Suppose in somewhere in the end here, if it merges with the Indian legal entity, starting from, I mean, again, the calendar should start from January 1st, right? So January 1st to March 31st, they will create as a fiscal period. So these 3 months they will create as a fiscal period. Once after completing this one, and they will follow the regular Indian pattern calendar, April 1st to 31st of March again. For that particular 3 months, they will create a calendar year, or else they can create one calendar year for complete 15 months at a time. That can also be possible in Dynamics. I'll show you two examples now. How can we do that? So as I was saying you, if in case of such kind of mergers, to manage those 3 months additional that they have in between, so they have to follow April 1st from next year. But in between, after completion of this December, they have these 3 additional months. So how they will manage these 3 additional months, that I'll show you here in the calendar. So I am creating a new year here, as you can see. I'm just giving this as FY additional. Okay. But as you can see here, it is directly taking the start date and end date. Directly taking the start date as next year's January 1st and end date as 31st of December next year. But in our situation, we want the end date should be March 31st, such that from April 1st we will create new fiscal year and we will follow the same pattern normally for all the years from there on. So in order to change this year or the end date here in the fiscal year, just remove this option here, copy from last fiscal year option. If you remove this option, this date will be editable. Then you can change it back to March 31st if you want here. And months normally, if for 3 months it will create a fiscal year, usual fiscal year. So I'll say it as fiscal year additional. So I don't think it will fit. I mean, all characters will not fit. Just keep it as fiscal year additional. Okay. I'll create here. So I can see here 3 operating periods are created, one for each month for the 3 months. And I have one opening and one closing. Okay. Now from here onwards, I'll create a new year. See what it will show is, it will show 1st April 2021 to 31st March 2023. So this is what we want, right? Indian pattern from 2020 to 2022, April 1st to 2023, March 31st. So this is how we want. So we will create it as fiscal year 2023. Sorry, fiscal year 2022-23, what we call in Indian terms normally. So copy from last fiscal year. Yeah, it will copy the months pattern, or else you can change the pattern if you want. So usually they'll follow months only, right? So I'll create months itself. Now see, the next year is created in following this pattern. And if I create one more year now and click on just create, and just I'll give this name here, fiscal year, sorry, one second, year 2024 25, or sorry, 23 24, right? 23 24, create. So now easily we changed the fiscal year that is followed from January 1st, December 31st to April 1st to March 31st, according to the new conditions of the company or new requirement of the business. So in between the 3 months period, we have adjusted it into another, adjusted as a normal fiscal year, and that after these 3 months, they will close the business or they will run the fiscal year closure once again and continue working on fresh business from 1st of April as according to the Indian calendar pattern. So when these kind of situations arise in your business, this is the solution that you can follow. Got it? Any doubt? Anybody understood the logic? You can give as many months as you want or as many years as you want in a fiscal year here in this Dynamics. Suppose if this example, I'll just delete these years one by one to demonstrate another way. Here I deleted this, and thus this one also I deleted. So this 3 months period also I'm deleting. Okay. So here normally in the previous example, I have created 3 months, and then from next year the merger rules are being followed. I mean the Indian calendar pattern is being followed, but they want it from the next year. Okay, not from the very next year. They want it from the later year. So in that case, we have to create the fiscal calendar to cover up 15 months, not 3 months. So I'll show you how we can do that. So I just click on new year here. So here you can see the end of fiscal year. I'll just close this parameter, set this to no, and I can change the date here. So I can say that, and from March until March 31st, 2023. So starting from January 1st, 2022 to March 31st March 2023, we can create 15 months. We can create as a calendar year. So next from 2023, what happens if I click on new year? I see it creates from April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. So we have adjusted that 15 months in this particular calendar year that we have created here. Previously we have done for 3 months, right? So in the same way, you can also do for 15 months such that the merger rules will be applicable from the later year rather than from the very next fiscal year. It will be applicable from the later fiscal year, which is here. This is another scenario.
For example, if the merger has taken place in the month of September,
Mhm.
so then in that case, I mean, how the case will be?
No, in case if your calendar is linked already to legal entities and your operations are being done, you can't make any changes in between, right? So they will find out a solution. They if they want to follow the which year they have to follow, they'll postpone it. No, usually. Okay,
Okay.
they'll go along to the feasible fact. They'll look into the feasible factors and go accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to change in between also, as I told, there is an option as well. So you have to unlink this calendar from the legal entities.
Okay.
For the temporarily, you have to link another calendar for those legal entities, and then you can come and make changes in this calendar and
Okay.
go back and again link this calendar to that legal
And
entity.
from Jan 1st to 31st, again we can create, right?
You can create anything you want
Okay.
again.
Yeah, okay.
You can reconstruct all your years and periods once again if you unlink this from all the legal entities.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one way. Thanks for that question. And anything else you have any confusion in this scenarios that I explained? So not usually you'll face these scenarios in business, but if somebody asks you, you have to be very clear about this happens, and not everyone is really with good knowledge of these amalgamations, mergers, and how can we adjust the opening periods and all. In only very senior people will have this understanding. So I've been explaining you such that you will keep it in mind and work accordingly when you have a need in business. So then let's leave this calendar and go back to our previous calendar, which is MRF. Okay, just change the calendar. We only have one fiscal year in that calendar and we have it here. Now let us discuss few options here within this. We have something called as divide period, create closing period, delete period options. So how this works and all we can see now. Okay. So here I have one option called as divide period. So what happens with this divide period? If I want to divide this 1 month period again into two periods, I can use that divide period option. See here, period 1 I have starting from 1st of January to 31st of January. Period 2 I have starting from 1st of February to 28th of February. If in between I want to divide this period for 15 days, so for 1st of January to 15th of January, I want one period, and from 15th of January to 31st, 16th of January to 31st of January, I want it as another period, another operating period. If that is my requirement, or if somebody asks you if it is possible or not, it is possible. So how to do that, I'll show you now. Here you have this option, divide period. You select the period which you want to divide and click on divide period here. If I click on divide period, it asks me if at all you are dividing this period, what will be the next date of the starting date of the next period. So I want to divide it from 1st of January to 15th of January. So what will be the starting date of the next period? Start date of the next period. So I have to give it here. Period start, next period start. So it will be 16th January, right? So I gave 16th January. Just give the name for that period. I'll just give it as period 1.5. Just for an example, okay? You can change this period names also if you want to, uh, as per your month also you can keep, but I'll tell you how it works. Click on divide here. See, it divides. You can see first period now we have 1st of January to 15th of January, and period 1.5 we have created new one, right? So it is starting from 16th of January to 31st of January, like this. If you want to break this one once again, starting from 21st of from 16 to 20 you want one period, from 21 to 31st you have one period. You can again divide it. like this, and you can give the date here from 21st to 31st. I want another period, and I'll call it as period 1.6 maybe. Okay, I'll just divide it, period 1.6. So you can see from 16th to 20 I have one period. From 21 to 31st of January I have another period again here. So this divide period option will work in that way. So I'll tell you why it is normally used in business. There is a calendar pattern called as 445 calendar or 544 or 454 calendar. So in that type of calendars, usually this divide period option will be helpful. Else you can also normally create any calendar like this and divide it according to as many however you want. So for each 14 days, if you want to divide, you can divide by 14 days calendar. Every time you can divide the calendar starting, I mean for 14 days if you want. Usually you can apply the 14 units and unit length as 14 and units as days, and you can apply that also if you want. But this one is usually the other way to divide a period, already created period. Okay. Now I don't want this period 1.6. I want to delete this period. Then I can see the option here, delete period. Okay. I'll click here, delete period. If I delete it, what happens is that 10 days period is that 10 days are again adjusted to the previous period. See here, the 10 days are being adjusted to this period number 1.5 again. So it is starting from 16th of January to 31st of January once again. So if I delete this period also, here the same data again will be inserted into this date period one only, 1st of January to 31st of January. So again I can divide it, again I can delete it however I want. Okay, but
So only the periods which are divided, those periods only we can delete now.
no, you can't delete this period one, but you can delete period two. Okay, because first date starting, right, you can't delete it. If you delete it, it can't adjust in any other period. But if you delete this one period two here, it will adjust it into period one only. So period one will be from 1st of January to 28th of February. Okay, I'll show you how. So if I delete this period two, it will adjust those missing dates or those days into this period. Now you see this one is from 1st of January to 28th of February. So which usually we don't want. I'll again divide this period. See here, I'll start it from, I mean, the start date should be from February 1st, right? So February 1st to, I'll create a new period. Just give it as period 2 once again and divide it and see it here. Got it? So
Yeah,
this is how we use these two options, divide period and delete period. So there is one more option called as create closing period. Usually we have one opening period, 12 operating periods and one closing period, right? You can create as many closing periods as you want if you want to create. Suppose at the end of this first quarter, at the end of 31st March, I want to create a closing period. I can just click on create closing period here. So it's giving as period 3 closing 0. Normally it gives this default name. You can change the name if you want and click on create. See here, for 31st of March till 31st of March only, it have created a closing period. Usually these closing periods in between are created to adjust any balances or to transfer some balances at the end of quarter from one main account to other main account, or internal transfer of balances from cash to bank, from bank to cash, anything else. If you want to move internal movements, you can do that adjustments using this closing period or within this closing period. And it is also not necessary. You can normally do the closing adjustments also, I mean changes from one period to other period. It's not compulsory that you have to create closing period like this, but sometimes client may require such closing periods in between the months, so you can create here like this. If you don't want, you can normally delete it once again. It doesn't affect anything. Mostly they don't create here in between, but they will create closing periods at the end. We have one closing period, right? They will create some additional closing periods at the end. This one closing period is there. Along with that, they'll create one or two closing periods and they will use them for a purpose, for transfer of closing balance. I'll show you that process during the year-end closure process, why they will create closing periods and use them. We will see that part again. Okay. But there is an option called create closing periods in between also. Remember that as well. So these are the three options we have on here. Now, if you got some clarity about this, how these three works, anybody have any other doubts in this?
No, Jay.
Okay. So I'll just walk you through this basic look how it is here. So normally you see period 1 is an operating period. It starts from 1st of January to 31st of, until 31st of January. You can see type is operating, start date is this, end date is this, and then you have one short name. If you want to give any short name, you can give any short name, just like Jan is a short name. If you want to give, you can give. Then it falls into first month, right? So it will show as first month. If you create a yearly operating period, it will normally show 1 and quarter because it don't have any other option. It can't show all the 12 months as well as 4 quarters in one line, right? So it usually shows like that. Don't bother about that. But if we create it on a monthly basis, it will show like this. So it will fall into first month. So it will show like this. So it should fall into second month, right? Since we have deleted and created it changed it changed here. Normally it should not look like this. I'll delete and create this here once again to show you once again. Okay, just year starting January 1st. Okay, 2021. I'll just give it as fiscal year 2021 and create, and see here this one first period. So you can see is in month 1. So month 2 February, month 3 March, like that. So three of these will fall into first quarter, right? So January, February, and March will fall into first quarter. So it is showing up first quarter here. The next three will fall into second quarter. In the same way, there will be 4 quarters for every 3 months. There will be a quarter. So 4 quarters for 12 months. If you want to add any additional comments for your period, you can add it here. Comments. These are all not mandatory, just optional fields. If you have to add any comments, such that whoever comes into this calendar to check this calendar, they can see these comments that were added by you, or you can keep some comments as a reminder for you, for your sake. Whenever we open this calendar, we will find that comments and keep that in mind, not to do something or to do something. So that kind of reminders you can keep here.